Rain fell hard on the metal roof of the Happy Paws animal shelter. Ji Park pulled her coat tighter as she walked through the front door. A bell jingled above her head. "Hello," she called out. The shelter smelled of wet dog and cleaning products. A young man with a name tag that read Shunho appeared from the back room. "Sorry, just feeding the cats. Are you here to look at our animals?" Ji nodded. She hadn't planned to visit the shelter today. Her small apartment barely had room for her, let alone a pet. But something had pulled her here on her day off from the lab. "I'm just looking," she said. Shunho smiled. "Take your time. The dogs are this way." He led her down a hallway lined with cages. Dogs of all sizes barked and wagged their tails as they passed. Some jumped up against the cage doors, while others lay quietly on their beds. "Most of these dogs came in last month," Junho explained. "They'll find homes soon. But the ones at the end," his voice trailed off. Ji understood. The dogs at the end of the hall had been there longest. They were the ones no one wanted. She walked slowly, looking at each dog. Near the end of the hall, in the second-to-last cage, a dog sat perfectly still. It wasn't barking or jumping like the others. It just watched her with deep brown eyes. The dog was medium-sized with brown fur that had patches of gray around the muzzle. One ear stood up straight while the other flopped down. A mixed breed, definitely older than the other dogs. "What about this one?" Ji asked, stopping in front of the cage. Junho sighed. "That's Daru. He's been here almost 6 months. Nobody wants an older dog, especially one that's not a specific breed." Ji knelt down. Daru didn't move, but his eyes never left hers. "How old is he?" "The vet thinks about 8 or 9. He was found on the street. No collar, no chip. We don't know his story." Ji put her fingers against the cage. After a moment, Daru slowly stood up and walked forward. He sniffed her fingers, then gave them a gentle lick. "What will happen to him?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Junho shifted uncomfortably. "We try not to, but after 6 months, we don't have the space to keep dogs forever. So he'll be put down. Next week, probably, unless someone takes him." Something in Daru's eyes spoke to Ji. They weren't sad exactly. They were patient, as if he had been waiting for something or someone. "I'll take him," Ji said, surprising herself. "Really? But you said you were just looking." "I know, but he needs a home. And," she couldn't explain the feeling, "I think we might need each other." An hour later, after filling out paperwork and buying basic supplies from the shelter's small store, Ji led Daru to her car. He followed calmly, not pulling on the leash like younger dogs might. "It's not a big place," she told him as they drove through the rain. "My apartment is small, and I work long hours at the biotech lab. But I'll make it work." Daru sat quietly in the passenger seat, watching the road ahead. "You won't have to worry anymore," she promised. "No more cages, no more waiting." At a red light, she reached over to pet his head. Daru leaned into her touch, and for the first time, his tail wagged gently. "We're going home," Ji said. She didn't know then how important those words would become. She didn't know that home would soon mean much more than her small apartment. She didn't know that the quiet dog beside her would one day help save not just her, but everyone. Daru seemed to know, though. As the light turned green and they drove on, his eyes remained fixed on the road ahead, alert and ready for whatever was coming. 3 months had passed since Ji brought Daru home. The small apartment no longer felt too small for both of them. In fact, it felt just right. Daru had settled in perfectly. He didn't chew things or bark at neighbors. He waited patiently when Ji worked late, and each night he slept on his bed next to hers, though sometimes she would wake to find him standing by the window, staring at the stars. "What do you see up there, old boy?" she would ask. Daru would wag his tail to keep watching the night sky. Tonight, Ji was working late in her lab. As a biotechnologist, she studied how machines could connect with living things. Her current project was a neural interface, a device that could read simple brain signals. Just a few more tests, she told herself. The lab was empty except for her. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. Daru lay under her desk. Jihai had started bringing him to work after her boss, Dr. Han, met him and was impressed by his calm behavior. "Such a well-behaved dog," Dr. Han had said, "almost like he understands what we're doing here." As Jihai adjusted her equipment, something strange happened. The screen that showed brain wave patterns suddenly changed. A new pattern appeared, one she hadn't seen before. "That's odd," she said, tapping the screen. The pattern continued. It wasn't random noise. It had a clear shape that repeated. 3 short peaks, 3 long peaks, 3 short again. Is this interference? From where? She checked all the connections. Everything was working correctly. Under the desk, Daru stirred. He stood up and began pacing the lab, his nails clicking on the tile floor. "What's wrong, Daru?" The dog ignored her. He walked around the room, sniffing the air. Then he did something unusual. He stood on his hind legs and put his front paws on the windowsill, looking out at the night sky. Ji joined him at the window. "What is it? Do you see something?" The sky was clear, filled with stars. Nothing seemed out of place, but Daru kept staring, a low whine in his throat. The pattern on her screen continued. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. Like a signal. Like a message. Jihai felt a chill run down her spine. "It can't be," she whispered. But what else could cause such a clear pattern? She took out her phone and called Minho, her colleague who worked in the astronomy department. "Minho, it's Jihai. Are you still at your lab? Good. Can you check if there's any unusual activity in the sky tonight?" "Yes, I know it sounds strange. It's just, I'm picking up something weird on my equipment." While she waited for Minho to call back, Jai started recording the pattern. Daru wouldn't leave the window. His body was tense, his ears forward. 10 minutes later, her phone rang. "Jai, how did you know?" Minho's voice was excited. "We're picking up something unusual. A signal from somewhere beyond our solar system. It just started about 20 minutes ago." The same time her equipment had started showing the pattern. "What does it mean?" she asked. "We don't know yet, but it's definitely not natural. Someone or something is sending it." After hanging up, Jihai looked at Daru. He had finally left the window, and now sat beside her, pressing against her leg. "How did you know?" she asked him. Daru just looked up at her with those deep brown eyes. That night, back in their apartment, Jihai couldn't sleep. The pattern kept repeating in her mind. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. When she finally did fall asleep, she dreamed of stars. Stars that moved. Stars that came closer. Stars that weren't stars at all. And in her dream, Daru stood between her and those approaching lights, his body a shield against whatever was coming. 1 week after the strange signal appeared, the whole world changed. Jihai was in her lab with Minho when they heard people shouting in the hallway. "What's happening?" she asked, looking up from her microscope. Minho ran to the door. "Everyone's going to the roof. Come on." Daru, who had been sleeping under Jai's desk, was suddenly alert. His ears stood straight up, and a low growl rumbled in his chest. "It's okay, boy," Jai said, patting his head. But Daru didn't relax. They followed the crowd up the stairs and onto the roof of the research building. Hundreds of people stood looking up at the sky. Jai pushed through until she could see. There, hovering above the city, was a massive ship. It was silver and smooth, with no visible windows or doors. Smaller ships circled around it like fish around a whale. "It's really happening," Minho whispered. "We're not alone." Daru pressed against Jai's leg, still growling softly. She looked down at him, confused. Why was he so upset? For 3 days, the ships stayed above the city. News reports showed similar ships over major cities around the world. Leaders tried to make contact, sending radio messages up to the visitors. On the fourth day, they got an answer. Jihai and Minho were in the main conference room with other researchers when the big screen on the wall suddenly turned on by itself. A face appeared, almost human, but not quite. The skin was too smooth, the eyes too large and dark. "People of Earth," the being said in perfect Korean, though Jihi knew people in other countries would hear their own languages. "We are the Nari. We come in peace." The being explained that the Nari were travelers from a distant star system. They had been watching Earth for some time and decided humans were ready for first contact. They wanted to share knowledge and technology. "This is amazing," Minho said, his eyes wide with excitement. "Think of all we'll learn." But Jihai wasn't listening anymore. She was watching Daru, who stood by the door with his hackles raised. He was staring at the screen, teeth slightly bared. Over the next few days, Nari representatives came to Earth. They met with world leaders and visited research centers, including Jihai's lab. Everyone was excited to welcome them. "They look so much like us," one of Jihai's coworkers said as they waited for the Nari delegation to arrive. "Yes, but different enough," another added. "Their skin has that slight blue tone, and those eyes. So beautiful." Jihai nodded, but she felt uneasy. Since the ships arrived, Daru had been acting strange. He barely slept. He watched the sky constantly. And he stayed close to Jihai, more protective than ever. When the Nari entered the lab, everyone stood to greet them. 3 tall beings walked smoothly into the room, smiling at the humans. They wore simple white clothes and carried no visible weapons or tools. "We are honored to meet Earth's scientists," the lead Nari said. "We have much to share with you." As they moved through the lab, looking at the equipment, Daru growled loudly from under Jihai's desk. "I'm sorry," Jihai said quickly. "My dog is usually well behaved." The Nari turned to look at Daru. For a moment, Jihai thought she saw something flash across their faces. Not fear exactly, but concern. "You bring animals to your workplace?" the lead Nari asked. "Some of us do. Dogs have been human companions for thousands of years," Jihai explained. The Nari nodded politely, but they kept their distance from Daru. As they continued the tour, Jihai noticed something strange. The Nari seemed uncomfortable around all animals. When they passed the lab's small animal research area, they quickened their pace. That night, as Jihai and Daru walked home, she thought about the Nari's reaction. "What do you see that we don't?" she asked Daru. "What do you know about our visitors?" Daru didn't answer, of course, but as they walked past a street screen showing a Nari representative speaking, he stopped and stared, his body tense and alert, like he was facing a predator. Jihai looked through her microscope at the Nari tissue sample. Something wasn't right. The Nari had shared these samples as a sign of trust, claiming they wanted humans to understand their biology. But what Jihai saw didn't match what they had told everyone. "Their cells don't make sense," she muttered to herself. Daru lay under her desk, his eyes never leaving her. The Nari had said they were plant eaters from a peaceful world, but these cells had structures that reminded Jihai of Earth's top predators. There were special glands that seemed designed to make chemicals that could affect other creatures. She turned to her computer to record her findings. As she typed, Minho walked into her lab. "Still working?" he asked with a smile. "The Nari representatives are giving another talk upstairs. You should come." Ji looked at her friend closely. His eyes seemed distant, unfocused. He had been spending a lot of time with the Nari delegates lately. "Minho, have you looked at these samples yourself?" she asked. He waved his hand dismissively. "There's no need. The Nari have explained everything about their biology in their presentations. But what I'm seeing doesn't match what they're telling us. Look here." She tried to show him the microscope. "You're probably just reading it wrong. They're so advanced, Jihai. We can learn so much from them. His voice had a dreamy quality that worried her. Under the desk, Daru growled softly. Minho didn't seem to notice. "I should get back to the presentation," he said. "You should come too. Stop wasting time on these tests." After he left, Jai sat back in her chair. "Something's wrong with him," she told Daru. "He's never dismissed my research before." Daru whined and pawed at her leg. Then he did something strange. He walked to her computer and put his paw on the keyboard. "Daru, no," she said, moving to stop him. But before she could reach him, the screen changed. A new window opened, a file she had never seen before. "What is this?" She leaned forward to look. It was data about the Nari, but not data she had collected. This showed chemical analyses of the air around the aliens after they had spoken to humans. "How did you?" She looked at Daru in shock. The dog just wagged his tail once and sat down, watching her. Jihai read through the file. According to this data, the Nari released special chemicals, pheromones, when they spoke. These pheromones could affect human brain activity, making people more trusting and less questioning. "That's why Minho is acting strange," she whispered. "They're influencing people's minds." She scrolled down further and found something even more disturbing. The chemical signature of these pheromones matched patterns found in certain predatory species on Earth, creatures that used chemicals to stun or confuse their prey before attacking. "They're not visitors," she realized with growing horror. "They're hunters." Daru stood up and nosed at another folder on her computer. When she opened it, she found images of brain scans, showing the difference between people who had spent time with the Nari and those who hadn't. "But how did you know to show me this? How is this even on my computer?" she asked Daru. The dog simply looked at her with those intelligent eyes. Jihai then noticed something remarkable in the data. People who owned dogs, especially those who lived closely with them, showed much less effect from the Nari pheromones. Something about being around dogs seemed to provide some protection. She patted Daru's head. "Is that why you've been so protective? Can you sense something about them that we can't?" Daru licked her hand once, then turned to look at the door, his body suddenly tense. Outside, footsteps approached her lab. Jai quickly closed the files and pulled up her regular work. As she did, she noticed an alert in one of the brain scan files, a warning about Phase 2, scheduled to begin in less than a week. Whatever the Nari were planning, she didn't have much time to stop it. But at least now she knew she wasn't alone in her suspicions. Somehow, in some way she couldn't understand, Daru was trying to help her uncover the truth. Jia didn't go to work the next day. She called in sick. It wasn't a lie. The fear of what she had discovered made her stomach hurt. "I can't tell anyone at the lab," she told Daru as they sat in her living room. "They might all be under the Nari's influence by now." Daru sat at attention, watching her as if he understood every word. On her coffee table lay the neural interface she had been working on. It was a simple headband designed to read basic brain signals. She had brought it home along with a smaller version. "This is crazy," Jai said, picking up the smaller device. "But I need to understand what you know." She had adjusted the interface to fit Daru's head. It wasn't meant for dogs, but the basic principle was the same. It could read electrical patterns from a brain. "Sit still," she told Daru as she carefully placed it on his head. The dog remained perfectly still, as if he knew this was important. Jihei put on her own headband and turned on both devices. They connected to her laptop through a wireless link. "I don't know if this will work," she admitted, "but it's worth trying." At first, nothing happened. The screen showed two separate brain patterns, hers and Daru's. Then she asked a question. "What do you know about the Nari?" Daru's brain pattern changed, and strangely, Jai felt something in her own mind. Not words, but images, feelings, flashes of memory that weren't hers. She saw dogs throughout history, standing guard at cave entrances while early humans slept. Dogs alerting shepherds to wolves hiding in the darkness. Dogs growing restless before earthquakes and storms their human companions couldn't sense. "You've always protected us," she whispered. More images came. Dogs sensing illness in their owners before doctors could detect it. Dogs finding people buried under rubble after disasters. Dogs knowing when something wasn't right, even when people couldn't explain why. Then came a new image, the Nari, but not as they appeared to human eyes. Through Daru's senses, they looked different. They gave off a scent that screamed danger. Their movements showed the patient stillness of a predator waiting to strike. "You can sense what they really are," Jai said, her heart racing. The final image was the clearest. It showed Earth from above, surrounded by hundreds of ships, far more than the few that had already arrived. Jili pulled off her headband, her hands shaking. Daru shook his head, and his interface fell off too. "They're not just visitors," she said. "They're the first wave. They're preparing Earth for a full invasion." She paced her apartment, trying to make sense of what she had experienced. Somehow, dogs had an ability to see past the Nari's deception. It wasn't magic. It was biology. Dogs had evolved alongside humans for thousands of years, developing special senses to detect danger and protect their human companions. That's why they're affecting people's minds first, she realized. They're making us trust them before the main force arrives. She looked at her phone, wondering who she could call. Most government officials had already met with the Nari, so had police and military leaders. Who could she trust? Then she thought of Minho. He had been acting strange, but he was her friend. Maybe she could break through whatever influence the Nari had on him. "We need help," she told Daru. "And I think I know how to get Minho to listen." She picked up the neural interface again. If she could share what Daru had shown her with Minho, maybe it would break the Nari's control. As she gathered her equipment, Daru went to the window and growled. Jai joined him and looked out. Across the street, two tall figures stood watching her apartment. They looked human, but their posture was too still, too perfect. "They know," she whispered. "They know we've discovered the truth." Daru pressed against her leg, a silent promise that whatever came next, she wouldn't face it alone. "They're everywhere at the lab now," Minho said, his voice low. "I can't believe I didn't see it before." They sat in Juhai's apartment with the curtains closed. It had taken 3 hours with the neural interface for Minho to break free of the Nari's influence. Now he looked tired but clear-eyed. "How many people do you think are still themselves?" Jai asked. "Not many. Most have had direct contact with the Nari by now." Minho rubbed his temples. "But I noticed something. Dr. Kim from the chemistry department seems normal. And she brings her golden retriever to work every day." Jai looked at Daru, who lay at her feet. "That fits with what we discovered. Dogs somehow block the Nari's influence." "So what do we do now?" Minho asked. "No one will believe us." Jai walked to her kitchen table where she had set up a small lab. Test tubes and portable equipment were spread across the surface. "I've been analyzing Daru's saliva and fur samples," she said. "There's something in canine pheromones that neutralizes the Nari's chemical control." She showed Minho her notes. "See this compound? It's present in all dogs, but stronger in breeds with protective instincts. Somehow, over thousands of years of evolution alongside humans, dogs developed this as a way to protect us." "So dogs are naturally immune to the Nari," Minho said, "and they provide some protection to humans who live with them." "Exactly. But it's not enough just to be near a dog occasionally. We need to amplify this effect." Jai pointed to a clear liquid in a small bottle. "I've isolated the key compounds from Daru's samples. If we can produce enough of this, we could create a counteragent." Minho picked up the bottle, examining it. "How much do we need?" "A lot more than this. We need to reach as many people as possible before Phase 2 begins." Daru suddenly stood up, ears alert. A moment later, Jai's phone rang. The caller ID showed Dr. Kim. "Hello," Jai answered cautiously. "Jai, it's Dr. Kim," the voice whispered. "Are you with Minho?" "Is he?" Himself. Yes, he's here. He's fine now. Good. Listen carefully. I know what you've discovered about the Nari. I've been tracking their chemical signatures too. Dr. Kim's voice was rushed. There are others like us. People with dogs who've noticed what's happening. We're meeting tonight. Can you come? Dr. Kim gave an address before hanging up. Jai looked at Minho. We're not alone, she said. That night, they went to an old community center on the edge of town. Daru walked between them, alert for any danger. Inside, they found 12 people waiting. Each had a dog by their side. Welcome to the resistance, Dr. Kim said, her golden retriever sitting proudly beside her. We don't have much time. She explained that the group had been monitoring the Nari's activities. Phase 2 is scheduled for 3 days from now. They'll release a stronger version of their mind control chemical into the water supply. But we have something they didn't expect, another scientist added, petting his border collie. We have these guys. The room was filled with dogs of all sizes. Most were family pets, but Jihai noticed 4 dogs wearing service vests. The service dogs were the first to alert their owners, Dr. Kim explained. They're specially trained to notice changes in human behavior. Ji showed them her counteragent. I need lab equipment to make more of this. It could protect people who don't have dogs. We've set up a lab in the basement, Dr. Kim said. Let's get to work. For the next 2 days, they worked nonstop. The dogs took turns standing guard, somehow knowing their job was to protect. Daru rarely left Jihai's side. By the end of the second day, they had produced enough counteragent to protect several hundred people. It wasn't enough for the whole city, let alone the world, but it was a start. We need to target key people first, Minho said. People who can help spread the word. As they packed the counteragent into small spray bottles, Daru suddenly growled. Outside, car doors slammed. They found us, Dr. Kim whispered. Everyone out the back door. Now, Dr. Kim shouted. The room erupted into motion. People grabbed dogs and bottles of the counteragent. Jai stuffed her notes and samples into her backpack, while Minho pushed tables against the front door. Daru, come, Jai called, but Daru wasn't beside her anymore. He stood at the front window, growling deeply. Outside, shadowy figures moved toward the building. They looked human from a distance, but their movements were too smooth, too coordinated. The Nari had stopped pretending. Daru, please, Jai begged. We have to go. Dr. Kim grabbed Jihai's arm. There's no time. The rest are already out. Minho joined them, his face pale. They're surrounding the building. But Daru, Jihai started. Suddenly, Daru raced to them. He pushed against Jai's legs, moving her toward the back of the room. His message was clear. Go. He wants to stay, Dr. Kim said. He's trying to buy us time. Tears filled Jihai's eyes. I can't leave him. You have to, Minho said. The counteragent is more important than any of us right now. The front door shuddered as something heavy slammed against it. The makeshift barricade wouldn't hold for long. Daru barked once, then ran to the front door. He took a position, ready to face whatever came through. He knows what he's doing, Dr. Kim said softly. Trust him. With a heavy heart, Jihai followed the others toward the back exit. Just before leaving, she looked back. Daru stood firm, his body between the Nari and their escape route. He met her eyes once more, and in that moment, she understood. This was what he was meant to do, what dogs had always done for humans. Protect them at any cost. I'll come back for you, she promised. Outside, they ran through dark alleys. Behind them, they heard barking and strange, high-pitched sounds that weren't quite human. Daru was fighting. They reached Dr. Kim's van and climbed in. As they drove away, Jihai fought the urge to look back. The main research facility, she told Dr. Kim. That's where we need to go. They'll have the equipment to mass-produce the counteragent. But that place will be crawling with Neri, Minho argued. Exactly. And that's where they'll take Daru. Nobody questioned how she knew this. They had all seen enough to trust the connection between Jihai and her dog. They dropped off most of the group at safe houses, splitting up the counteragent. Only Jihai, Minho, and Dr. Kim continued to the research facility. We need a plan, Dr. Kim said as they parked a block away. I have one, Jihai replied, but you won't like it. 20 minutes later, Jihai walked up to the front gate of the facility. Alone. I want to speak with the Neri, she told the guard, who looked at her with empty eyes. I have information about the resistance. She was searched, her backpack taken, and then led inside to a large conference room. 3 Neri sat waiting. In their human disguises, they looked almost normal, except for their too perfect posture and the strange flatness in their eyes. Jihai Park, the middle one said, we have been expecting you. Where is my dog? She demanded. The Neri smiled. It wasn't a real smile. It didn't reach their eyes. Your concern for an animal is misplaced. You should be more worried about yourself. Dogs are not just animals to us, Jihai said. They're our companions, our protectors. Yes, we have noticed this. Attachment your species has to these creatures. An evolutionary mistake that has caused us some inconvenience. Another door opened, and 2 more Nari entered, dragging Minho between them. His face was bruised, but his eyes were clear and defiant. You didn't really think we wouldn't detect your friends outside, did you? The lead Nari asked. Jihai's heart sank. The plan had failed before it even started. She could only hope Dr. Kim had escaped with the remaining counteragent. What do you want from us? She asked. Information, of course. The Nari leaned forward. About these dogs of yours, and why they alone can see us for what we truly are. Jihai sat in a small white room. Her hands were tied to the chair. Across from her, a Nari in human form watched her with cold eyes. Your resistance is pointless, the Nari said. We have controlled hundreds of worlds before yours. None have escaped. Then why are you so interested in our dogs? Jihai asked. If we're no threat. The Nari's face twitched slightly. A minor curiosity. Nothing more. But Ji knew better. The way they had separated her from Minho, the urgent questions about dogs. The Nari were worried. Where is my dog? She asked again. Being studied. We need to understand how these simple animals can detect us. The Nari stood up. Rest now. Tomorrow we will continue our questions. After the Nari left, Jihai tested her restraints. They were too tight. The room had no windows, just a door with a small glass panel. Through it, she could see guards in the hallway. Hours passed. Jihai dozed off, exhausted from fear and stress. A sudden alarm jolted her awake. Red lights flashed, and a loud siren blared throughout the building. Through the door's window, she saw the guards look at each other in confusion. Then they ran off, leaving the hallway empty. What's happening? She whispered to herself. The alarm continued. Then came another sound. Barking. Lots of barking. The door to her room burst open. But it wasn't a Nari. It was a large German shepherd wearing a police canine vest. Behind it came Dr. Kim with a ring of keys. Hurry, Dr. Kim said, unlocking Jihai's restraints. We don't have much time. How did you? Jihai began. No time to explain. We need to find Minho and get out. They ran into the hallway. The German shepherd led the way, sniffing the air and moving with purpose. Rex is tracking Minho's scent, Dr. Kim explained as they ran. Jihai noticed something strange. Throughout the facility, doors had been forced open. Equipment was knocked over. And everywhere, there were paw prints of different sizes. What's going on? She asked. Daru, Dr. Kim said simply. He escaped from the lab where they were holding him. Then he did something amazing. He freed every dog in the research kennels. There are over 30 of them. As if on cue, they turned a corner and saw a Nari backing away from two growling Labradors. The dogs didn't attack, but they kept the alien pinned against the wall, unable to move. Rex led them down another hallway to a locked door. Dr. Kim used her keys, and inside they found Minho, also tied to a chair. "The dogs," he said as they freed him. "They're everywhere." "Daru organized them somehow," Dr. Kim said. "I've never seen anything like it. They're working together, freeing people and trapping Nari." A familiar bark made Ji spin around. There in the doorway stood Daru. His fur was dirty, and he had a cut above one eye, but his tail wagged at the sight of Ji. "Daru," she cried, kneeling to hug him. But Daru didn't stay for long. He barked twice, then turned and ran back into the hallway. "He wants us to follow," Ji said, somehow knowing exactly what her dog was thinking. They ran after Daru through the chaotic facility. Dogs of all breeds ran past them, some guiding confused-looking humans to safety, others working in pairs to keep Nari isolated. Daru led them to the main laboratory, the place where Jihai had been working on her neural interface project. Inside, computer screens were still on, showing data about the Nari's chemical compounds. "This is what we need," Jihai said, grabbing a hard drive and downloading the files. "With this, we can perfect the counteragent and distribute it worldwide." As they worked, Daru kept watch at the door. More dogs joined him, forming a protective line. How did they know what to do? Minho asked, watching the dogs work together. "I think Daru showed them," Jihai said. "Just like he showed me through the neural interface. Dogs understand more than we realize." When they had what they needed, Daru led them to an emergency exit. Outside, the night air was cool and fresh. Nearby, Dr. Kim's van waited with the engine running. As they climbed in, Jihai looked back at the facility. Through the windows, she could see dogs still moving with purpose, still helping humans escape, still containing the Nari threat. "They're not just pets," she said softly. "They're guardians. They always have been." 6 months had passed since the night of the rescue. Jihai stood at the window of her new office, watching the training yard below. Dozens of people worked with dogs of all breeds and sizes. Some were teaching the dogs to find hidden Nari pheromones. Others practiced how to apply the counteragent spray. The Nari had retreated from Earth 3 months ago. Their scout ships disappeared overnight after Jihai and her team broadcast the formula for the counteragent worldwide. As humans woke from the Nari's influence, the aliens had no choice but to leave. But everyone knew they would return someday, next time with more ships and new tricks. "Are you ready for the ceremony?" Minho asked, entering her office. He now headed the science division of the new Guardian program. "Almost," Jai replied, turning from the window. "Is Daru ready?" "Of course. He's waiting in the main hall." Together, they walked through the large building that once had been a simple research lab. Now it was the headquarters of Earth's first line of defense against alien threats. Similar centers had opened in every major city around the world. The main hall was filled with people and dogs. Government officials, military leaders, and ordinary citizens who had joined the resistance stood together. At the front, Dr. Kim waited with a box of special collars. As Jihai and Minho entered, the room fell silent. All eyes turned to the door behind them, where Daru appeared. He walked slowly, his head high, his step steady. Though he was older now, with more gray around his muzzle, he moved with dignity. Daru took his place at the front of the room. Behind him, 12 dogs of different breeds formed a line. They were the first graduates of the Guardian program. "Today, we honor these dogs and their human partners," Dr. Kim began. "They have completed their training and are ready to serve as our first defense against future threats." One by one, the dogs and their partners received special collars and badges. The collars contained sensors that could detect alien pheromones from a distance. The badges were for the humans, a symbol of their commitment to the program. When only Daru remained, Jay stepped forward. Daru was not trained for this role, she said, her voice clear and strong. He was a shelter dog with no home, no purpose, until we found each other. But he knew his purpose all along. To protect, to guard, to warn. She knelt beside him, placing her hand on his head. Dogs have always protected us, long before we understood the threats they could sense. They have guarded our homes, our children, our lives. Not because we trained them to, but because that is the bond they chose to make with us thousands of years ago. Dr. Kim handed her a special collar, larger and with more sensors than the others. It had been designed specifically for Daru, who would now lead the training of new guardian dogs. With this collar, I don't just honor one dog, Jai continued. I honor all dogs who have ever watched over sleeping children, who have warned us of dangers we couldn't see, who have loved us even when we didn't deserve it. She placed the collar around Daru's neck. He sat perfectly still, his brown eyes fixed on hers. The room erupted in applause. The ceremony was over, but their work was just beginning. Later that evening, Jihai and Daru walked home together. Their new apartment was larger, with a yard for Daru to enjoy. As stars appeared in the sky, they sat on the porch, looking up. They're still out there, Jihai said quietly. Watching. Waiting. Daru rested his head on her knee. He wasn't worried. Earth had its guardians now. As night fell, Daru's eyes remained alert, watching the stars as he had done since the first day Jihai brought him home. Not just as a pet, not just as a companion, but as Earth's first guardian against the darkness beyond. In shelters across the world, dogs waited for homes. Some would become pets, some would become service animals. And now, some would become guardians. All of them heroes, waiting for their chance to show what dogs had always known, that their purpose was to protect the humans they loved.